Hello and welcome to the Last Word on Spurs. We are, of course, your multi-award winning Tottenham Hotspur podcast. We're back as Tottenham Hotspur's talismanic skipper, Cristian Romero, rescues a point for Tottenham Hotspur deep into added time at St James's Park. Is that the moment that turns around Thomas Frank's Tottenham? If you're the very, very first time, you can find us. We're on iTunes, we're on Spotify, we're across all major audio platforms. I'm joined by three great returning guests to Last Word on Spurs. One we haven't seen in a long time, and lovely to welcome him back. We've got the wonderful, he tells me he's a general loudmouth. I'm not sure about that. Martin Cloake is back on Last Word on Spurs. Luke is here from Spotlight on Spurs. And Marlon is back from Spurs Kings TV. Before we bring in the guys and what they thought of the game and what that means for Thomas Frank's future and more, let's take you through the match facts and the stats as it finished. Newcastle 2, Tottenham 2. Newcastle 19 shots to Tottenham's 8. Newcastle 7 shots on target to Tottenham's 2, being the 2 goals scored from Cristian Romero. Once again, a first half where we didn't see a shot on target for the 4th game, I believe, in a row. Touches in the opposition box. Newcastle 38 in Tottenham's to Tottenham's 22 in Newcastle's. Tottenham the busier of the two sides, as you would imagine, on the clearances, 36 to 28, and also tackling wise, 18 to 16. Newcastle edging the interceptions, 8 to 7. They also edged the corner count, 11 to 8. They shaded possession 53% to Tottenham's 47%. And the good old XG stat, there you go, 2.17 to Newcastle to Tottenham's 0.85. And I do understand this is now the 9th occasion in the last 14 games that Tottenham have failed to register an XG above 1. So we'll get the thoughts with that and the guys and more. For those that are listening, watching the show live on the playback, if you can for us, guys, if you can hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, hit the hype button, that'll be greatly appreciated and share this out to a wide range Spurs audience. It's fair to say that the game itself came with some controversial nature to it as well. Obviously, there was a VAR decision in the closing minutes, which looked like it was going to deny Tottenham a point. And we'll come on to that and give our thoughts on that and where the guys' thoughts are on that. But look, let's open up on the point and the nature of it. Martin, let's open up with you. Finished 2-2. Look, it's a ground where Tottenham have really struggled at in recent years, right? And they've shown some guts. They've shown some heart, you would say, by finding a way to come back twice in a game. For Romero, he scored a brace for the first time in his 199th appearance in Europe's top 5 leagues. But Tottenham's 2 shots came from the centre-back. Martin, your thoughts on the game, and I'm sure we'll get into Thomas Frank and more.
Oh, well, I thought it was a good turnout from our fans, and they were pretty loud tonight. But I don't think any of us were expecting anything from the game, were we, at all? So it's more positive than we thought we would be. I think there was some encouragement about it. I mean, there was a lot not to be encouraged about in that game, especially in the first half, which was rank. But there was some character showed. And I think that's what people have been looking for, and all the sort of the controversy that's swirled around over the past week. I think what people always look for from the team they support and from the players wearing their club shirt is a bit of commitment and drive and determination, a little bit of passion. And I thought we started showing that a little bit in the second half. We started showing a little bit of intent. And I think there was a proper fight back after that absolute joke of a penalty decision as well, which you're never going to convince me that was a penalty, but I know we'll get onto that. So look, I'm encouraged that there was some fight back. and the players showed some character, because I think that's what's been questioned, hasn't it? For a while. Is there enough there? Can we sustain the rest of the season on performances like that? No, we can't. We need a lot more. But if we can use this to build from, then hopefully we can look back and say this was a turning point in the season. But it's pretty thin gruel, isn't it?
Yeah, I agree. I mean, it's one of those where I totally agree with you. I mean, look, it sounds mad saying this. In normal circumstances, when you get a point at a ground where you haven't got result for a very, very long time, I'd be going crazy. But I think, and we'll come on to it, given the nature of the display up until the 70th minute mark. And I think it was a better second half, don't get me wrong. And there was some guts and determination in there. I still come away with a lot of questions rather than answers, to be honest with you. But I'm pleased for Romero. Showed some real grit, some determination. He seemed to indicate, based on his celebration, that he feels that like you touched upon, Martin, the VAR decision was a crazy one. We're going to hear from Thomas Frank shortly to get his take on it. Luke, let's come round to you and get your thoughts on the game if we can. Because, look, again, it's a game where I'll make that point. It's a good point for Spurs. Definitely a better performance second half than what we've seen recently. You'd argue this is where you need to see your leaders. You need to see those people on the field that are leading the team. And that's what Romero did do. And it looked quite nice at the end, as Martin touched upon. The away fans have seen a couple of goals. They looked very happy. They were chanting Romero's name, chanting Vicario's name. Luke, what did you make of the overall result up at Newcastle before we get into Thomas Frank and more?
Yeah, I think Martin touched on it a little bit there. I feel like it really depends on what side of the fence you sit on this, really, because as you say, if you break down the facts of it, you're going away from home, and let's be honest, it's been a very poor run of form. A lot of players that are out of form. The team seem like they're struggling, not creating a lot of chances, not scoring a lot of goals. And then you go to Newcastle away, and as Martin said, everyone was sitting there going, we could be really come unstuck here. This could be a bit of a hiding if we don't have our act together, and we're coming away with a draw. And you could argue with that one of the worst VAR decisions I've ever seen. For that to be overturned is unbelievable. But that's a 2-1 win. So it depends. It really depends on what side of the fence you sit. I think there were so many negatives that were in there. But then also it's whether you draw some of the positives. Now, we had this a little bit back in the PSG game where there were a load of negatives. We lost the game, et cetera, but we also see some other stuff that you can actually sort of build on. So if we can build on the positives and get better from that start, at that point, then great. But this is still a draw, and there were plenty of negatives, as I said. So I'm sure we'll get into it in a little bit more. But at least we've got a point, a very, very difficult game. So I just think it is where you sit with this. Really, it really is depending on how you feel. But yeah, as I say, when you break down the facts, to go and get a draw at St James's Park, there's not many teams that will go there and beat them. So I think we have to take that.
It's an interesting one, Miles, coming over to you, because there's been a few question marks recently over Romero, and someone may be questioning in the last few weeks about, was it right to give him a new contract? That's how fickle football is, right? But he did celebrate with passion. There was energy, there was desire from him, and maybe it's a reminder of what a special player he is. And I think given how painful another defeat would have felt, and by the nature again of how Spurs decided to set up and tactically go about the game, could that be potentially a significant moment in Spurs' season? Was that too early to say?
It won't be a significant moment. I think when you look at it, I think a lot of the talk over the next few days will be about the VAR decision. Everyone's going to forget about actually how bad we were in that first half, and actually in that second half, the fact we've had 2 shots on target, it's the same that we've been seeing the last few weeks. And for me, look, I agree with what everyone has said on the panel. Yep, it's a good result. Not many teams will go to Newcastle and probably get a result. However, the concerns are still there. And that's the biggest thing that I'm going to take from this, is that, yeah, the VAR decisions happened, but we've had 1 shot on target up until that point. If you look at the game overall, Newcastle probably did deserve it. We were so poor on the ball in possession. We just didn't create nothing. It's just same old. However, I am going to take the positive from it and go, at least we didn't lose. And that's the one thing I can take from it. But if I'm going into Brentford now on Saturday any more positive than I have been, I've been told by this team, we're going to do better. But I'm still seeing the same tactics. I'm still seeing us create nothing. And I'm just like, can I really take the positive? When I go back to when we drew 2-2 with Brighton, we had, everyone was saying then how good we were and this, that, and the other. But yeah, I'm still seeing the same rubbish since then. So for me right now, I'm going to sit there and go, well done, boys. You got a point. And pretty much well done to Romero, because actually you're spot on there in the sense he's been given the captaincy and he's literally by himself dug us out of a hole tonight. He literally has dug us out of a hole. But if I'm looking at the bigger picture here, I'm looking at it going, well, I haven't seen anything different from what I saw against Fulham. I haven't seen anything different from what I saw against Arsenal. And I really haven't seen anything different from what I saw against PSG. A lot of it, I was seeing the boys walk about. If I'm being completely honest, they were walking about. They wasn't running. For the first half an hour, it was literally all Newcastle. We kind of got back into it when Bergvall got the chance and hit it over the bar. But again, I'm just sitting there going, it felt like, and I feel like a lot of Spurs fans who will look at it later on, it felt like a Brentford performance where they've gone and nicked it. Really,
I was thinking that myself.
And,
I was, yeah.
And I want to be as positive as anything. But I think everyone who's heard me for the last few weeks, since I come on against Arsenal, I just can't see any positives until I see a massive change. And for me, I still saw a lot of the same. I was at one point when we all went 2-1, not one Spurs fan thought we were going to go and get a second, but we did, and well done to them.
Yeah,
I'm going to say it, well done to them. But right now, I'm looking at going, I haven't seen anything different, so I am going to say well done for tonight. You didn't lose, but it's a long way to go. But well done. And Thomas Frank needed that.
Yeah, he did need that, Thomas Frank. He did, and he celebrated the 2 goals very, very much on the touchline. Martin, I mentioned it to Marlon there. I asked him if that could be a significant point for Tottenham and a turning point in the season. Am I trying to go too far with that? I mean, what do you think? Because it's a tough ground to go, right? I think we've not won there in the last 7-8 occasions. So to go there and get something, can that change the tide and the mood around Thomas Frank as the manager right now, do you feel?
I think you've got to hope that it does. I think what all of these discussions come down to is the question of are the players good enough, right? Should he be getting more out of this group of players than he is, or are they simply not good enough? Now, I think that he should be getting. There's definitely room for improvement in the squad. My opinion is that he should be getting more out of this group of players. People are saying that we haven't got, we certainly haven't got the best squad in the Premier League, but we've got some really good players in there, and they're not playing to their potential. So then, when you start talking about character as well, that that's the kind of missing link, isn't it? Is that reasonably average players with a bit of character can play above themselves a little bit as well. Very good players that haven't got that character, that haven't got that drive. And what's been missing at this club for years is that elite sporting mentality, that determination to go out and win. And that we've talked about this so many times as a club. We've been losing our identity for such a long time. What are we about as a club? What sort of football do we want to play? Do we have that drive to win that the real top teams have got? So I think that's the question at the moment. And people can talk about, is Frank the right person? Is the team right, or whatever? Are the players that we've got good enough? And if they are, is the manager getting a tune out of them that he should be getting out of them? And I think that's how you have to kind of try and break it down. But the question of character is a tricky one. And I think that's, again, why we were disappointed last week, is that, why are the players having meetings about the fans? Because I think pretty much every fan said, here's a big list of things you could be having a meeting about: tackling, passing forward, creativity, professionalism, leadership, application, all of those things as well. So hopefully we saw some of those things come through in that second half tonight, and they'll say, actually, that's what we need a bit more of, and maybe they could play above themselves a little bit. But I think that we've got some really good players on there. We should be getting a little bit more of a tune out of them. I was quite encouraged by Bergvall tonight, and I think Romero and Van der Ven would walk into any team as well as centre-backs. So
yeah. It's an interesting one. I mean, coming over to you, Luke, I would say that the second half performance for me was a little bit more optimistic. The way the players did stick together, the way they did fight. Many would argue what they would argue about the way Newcastle were playing second half wise, but they were trying to up the ante on Tottenham. And I think fair play to Spurs. We showed some character there, where in other years we've seen at Newcastle, we have wilted. And it's a ground that we know when the home fans get on top of you, we've seen many a Tottenham team collapse, right, and capitulate. And once they concede one, they concede 2, 3, and 4. We've seen that in recent years. So I think there's an argument there to be said, given the pressure and the noise around Thomas Frank, the noise around the team. Do we have to acknowledge just the size of that point potentially for the group, for Thomas Frank as well? Because that has been a game that, as I keep on mentioning, has been a very, very tough place for Spurs to go to in, lesser times where there's been lesser pressure maybe on a group and on a manager, and we've gone there and we've got something.
Yeah, 100%, especially when you consider, obviously, the fallout of Vicario last week. As you said, what was said in the press conferences, blaming the fans and everything else, it could have been very easy for them to get to the sort of 60th minute. And even like going behind by that penalty, you sit there going, that's just one of them. Again, it's one of them days where nothing we do is right. We're getting Dan Burn didn't even believe it was a penalty by the looks of him. He was kind of like, what is going on here? So you can be in that sort of mentality where you go, everything's just going against us. You kind of defeat, you kind of give up. And actually, when you look back at that second goal from Romero, he's fouled and he goes down, and he's got, as Martin just said, about the drive, the determination to get up and go, I don't care about that because I just need to get a goal. We need to get back into this, where he could have just laid around and tried to call for a foul and everything else. So yeah. I'm saying, I don't think this performance, sometimes you have a performance where you go, if we play like that every week, we'll do really well. That's not the case. This is the absolute minimum that we have to be at. And we need to build on this. And if we can build on this performance, then maybe we can go and have a decent season. This is just the baseline of what's required in terms of that second half. But as I said, not to be negative or anything like that. This is where we need to go. We need to be able to. That first half it was almost like the what Spurs are really, really bad at, and then where Spurs can start to improve. And I think, talking about Brentford, I think that's what we're starting to see quite a lot of, even in press conferences, is the more of the Brentford conversations and the answers. And it's like, that's not so. Like, Brentford today will be absolutely astounded that they've got a draw. It'll be absolutely brilliant for their fan base. It'll be, whereas Spurs fans are like, no, but it still wasn't good enough. It still wasn't good enough. I'm hoping that starts feeding through to say, look, this is the kind of levels that we need to get to. But you have to build from somewhere. And I think that there are some positives that you can take from them. But that, as I said, has to be the benchmark. We can't then drop to the first half standards again next week, because if we do, you're not going to pick up any points.
Yeah. No, I do agree on that. And it's really important. I think you make that point about the mindset of Thomas Frank, for example, because I think that's such a key point, Martin, bringing you back in what Luke said there, that for Frank, if he was at Brentford, he'd be coming away absolutely delighted by the character, the grit, the determination of going to Newcastle and getting a point. And no one would really mention about the first half performance. Whereas obviously at Tottenham, with that expectation being slightly more, let's be honest about it, scrutinised than what it should be, over the course of 90 minutes, there would be an argument to say it was such a poor 45 minutes or so that sometimes, in a way, that overriding feeling as when the game finishes may be more about the VAR rather than the comeback. But I don't want to take away from the fact, which I keep on repeating here, we have shown guts, we have shown determination, we have shown desire, we've gone to somewhere we don't normally go to, and we've got something. And I really, really do hope that's the turning point for Frank. I really hope for him, based on what we've seen that second half, that can be a moment where the players all do come together in the right spirit and not just at half time to walk off the field together. And like Lucas said there, Martin, that second half performance should be the minimum that they're putting in.
Oh, absolutely. So it's back to this character question. I mean, I think we're going to be really honest about it, and maybe a lot of people listening won't like this, but we're possibly being a bit disrespectful to Brentford, because if you look at what Brentford's performance would have been like over the past 2 seasons and ours, they probably average out being a bit better. So we can get a little bit ahead of ourselves sometimes, saying, we're this and we're that. Well, we were something quite a long time ago, but we haven't been for quite a long time. And, we got a trophy last season, and that's been kind of gone over and, sort of dissected every which way. But we haven't been playing good football for quite a long time now. So, we've got something to build on. But I think that we've got players that are capable of playing much better football than we are at the moment. And so that is where the thing comes in. Is Thomas Frank's mentality still, are we good enough? Or has he actually got an honest assessment of what we've got? I watched, I didn't go to the game tonight, so I was watching it on telly, and the pundits beforehand were saying, their front three last season, Brentford's was far better than the front three that we've got at the moment. And actually, they're not wrong with that. So, there's a lot to look at in there. But hopefully there's something to build on. But we're really kind of digging deep in here. And you're not seeing a lot of... You've got to go out and want to make things happen. You've got to go out and want to win a game and run a game, not just not lose. That's the thing. And I think that's what we want to see as Spurs fans, isn't it?
Yeah. Yeah, I also do.
We've got players out there that are going backwards a bit as well. When Kudus first came, I thought this is a proper footballer as well. And that, people go up and down in form, but he's kind of drifted a little bit. Doggie's not been looking too good either. So, you're looking for as a manager improving individual players as well. And I'm not seeing a lot of that development at the moment. It's still early days, but it's this question of is what we've got good enough.
I do agree, and I've said this before, Luke. I know you have as well. That the squad itself. I think some of us, including me, I still live off the Pochettino era, right? And I think sometimes wrongly, I set my expectations back on what there is in the Pochettino era. And we're not there, are we? We're just not there. The squad, if we're going to be honest about it, there's not one player, I don't think, from the current 11 or the squad that probably gets into the Pochettino first team that we had when you look back all those years ago. So do we need to, Luke, maybe sometimes, take a step back and realise that we haven't got that type of squad or anywhere near that type of quality, and therefore have to maybe balance expectations? I'm not saying we should be accepting 4 games in a row without a shot on target, just to be very, very clear. I'm not saying that, but at the same time, is it a case where we have to just simply be a little bit more balanced in what expectations are right now, and where things are tough and you go away to a venue like Newcastle, tough place to go, you nick a point, you think, do you know what, maybe we're building on something here rather than maybe looking to tear the whole house down?
Yeah, 100%.
What you don't accept is the performances that we showed up against Arsenal and Chelsea.
No.
That's what you don't accept as well. So hopefully we've moved on from that, and they've got to realise that as well. That's just shameful and unprofessional, those performances.
Totally agree. Luke, come on the back of that as well if you can for us.
Yeah, no, I think that's the problem, is that where it's followed up from. It's the performances that we've seen. So it isn't the fact that we've drawn with Newcastle away from home and that we've struggled and we haven't created loads of chances, but we've nicked a draw and great. It's what the performances have previously been. So if we'd have won 3 games on a trot, scoring loads of goals, gone and done this, then there wouldn't be criticism from anyone. I don't think everyone would be going, that's okay. We've gone there. We've done a hard graft. We've gone to a hard ground. We've kind of shored it up. Okay. We've hit them on the break, etc. I think is that what we haven't seen is we haven't seen that attacking prowess, and we haven't seen it against Newcastle. We haven't seen it against Arsenal. We haven't seen it against Chelsea, and you can go on and on and on and on. So it's not just about, for context, it's not just about this isolated game that we're talking about. If someone said to you, oh, you're going to go away to Newcastle, you're going to kind of nick a couple of goals, you're not going to look great, they're going to kind of dominate play a little bit, but you walk away with a draw, everyone would have gone, absolutely, that's fine. But it's when you follow it up, as you said, we haven't had a shot on target for 4 games now in the first half. It's not good enough. And I understand what people are saying about squad depth and how good the squad is and everything else. But the teams at the bottom don't go 10 games or 4 games on a trot without having at least a shot. It doesn't happen. It's not a regular occurrence. So for me, it's about a mindset. And the thing with Frank coming in, we was told that obviously under Ange, it was easy to play against. It's easy to create chances against us, and Frank would make us difficult to play against. And I think a lot of fans jumped on board with that and was happy for that. We're not hard to play against at this moment in time. We're fairly easy to play against. We kind of let people do what they want. They score. We're conceding very similar goals, and you don't have to play really, really well to go and beat us. Like Newcastle today, they had some good moments, but they wasn't great, and they nearly nicked it. They nearly beat us, and this is the problem for me, is that we need to get to a stage where we're difficult to beat, and this isn't, as Marlon mentioned, this isn't something that's just started happening. Even when we was 5th, I came on here and said, in a couple of weeks, if the performances continue the way that we're going, we could end in 13th, 12th, whatever that is. So this isn't, again, it's not just for context, because I see some fans saying about, yeah, but it's a draw. We never beat them. It isn't about this single game. It's about a precedent that we've seen for far too long now, and we do need to get to a position where that changes, because I do agree that I think some of the attacking players have come off the boil, but it's simple confidence. Like, it's a lot of the stuff I'm seeing. Even I made a note today about the amount of passes that are not played in front of a player. They're played behind them. So the attacking momentum is slowed down while they wait to receive the ball, as opposed to just whipping it in and getting it to the player. So often where you just like, what is going on here? So it is, as I say, it definitely, there were some positives to take, but they have to be built on. They have to be built on from now going into the next sort of games.
Yeah, we are going to hear from Thomas Frank very, very shortly. We're going to hear from him in his press conference. We're going to bring that to you very soon. Miles, I want to get your take on the fact there was a report that was published in the earlier part of the week suggesting that Tottenham players are growing frustrated with Thomas Frank's tactics. They've been confused by their roles, with changes being made so close to kick-off. While some are enjoying playing under Frank, there's a concern that he may lose the majority of the dressing room if that aspect of it continues. Would you say, Marlon, based on that second half performance, the fight, the determination, the grit showing there, that's still a team most certainly still playing for the coach? We need Marlon to unmute if we can. Sorry, Miles.
Yeah. Sorry, I'm not entirely sure. I haven't seen. I wouldn't say I've seen tonight and gone, that's a team playing for the manager. I'd say that's a captain playing for the manager. No one else. But he's barely been involved, and he's got a responsibility. Whereas at the moment, you always get these rumours when a manager's about to lose his job at Spurs. We're kind of used to this, that this is the first thing that starts to come out in the media. The players don't like the way the manager is. They're getting confused. Well, they've been confused for the last 5 years. So come on, like I'm starting to believe what everyone is saying when people are going, actually it's the players, it's not the manager. Yeah. Maybe that's the bit where once, I want to say Frank gets his players, maybe that's when we could start judging him, because apparently this crop of players, they might be cup winners, they might finish 17th, they might finish 5th the year before, but actually they're all confused about what they're actually doing on a football pitch. And all they've got to do is, like for us today in that first half, put some effort in. Come on.
That first half, I got to make you laugh. When I saw Kudus doing kick-ups towards our own goal, I'm thinking, what is this? A training practice match?
But this is what they're treating like, and you can clearly see it's being treated like a training.
I can't believe what I was watching.
Yeah, they're not putting, and when they can't even put passes together, these are pro footballers. Like I'm sitting there concerned that they can't put two passes together. Like you get paid all this amount of money. I'm pretty sure if I went to a Sunday League team, at least some of them could put two passes together, and I bet Thomas Frank could get them to put two passes together. Yeah. So I'm starting to really, really worry about this team. The only thing that's really going against, I suppose, Frank at the moment is the whole Xavi Simons incident. Because he's been put on the bench, and actually when he comes on at the moment, it seems to be that we're playing slightly better when he comes on, but that might be just the way he changes it. But at the moment, I just can't. I can't see the positives at the moment, and I think that's the real painful thing at the moment. I can't see any positives. And Romero, slightly comes out of it positive tonight, but even then, I want to see something really dramatically change before I start going, actually.
Going overboard, I get that. You need to see more.
The last 6 weeks, the last 6-7 weeks, actually, let's take the whole season where since September hit, since that Bournemouth game hit, I'm not sitting there going, I think
it's really fair. I mean, I think it's really fair to say, look, I'm not asking you to have to change your opinion based on 45 minutes of performance and a last-minute goal to then think there's going to be a complete change in momentum. You mentioned it earlier, Martin, the players now, where are you on some of these players? Because that's been a big concern for me, that they, like Marlon said, they might be cup winners, but is that attitude right? Because I think for Frank, that's a big thing as well. We sit here and discuss Thomas Frank, but how much are these players really playing for Tottenham?
That's the big question, and that's what you need. You need to ask where the character is in those players. Are they going to put in the performances? Are they going to kind of either play to the level that they think that they're at, or play a little bit above that? But this has been something that's been going on at Spurs for years, and one of the problems with the way the whole club's been run is people not taking responsibility for things. I mean, Marlon's absolutely right about these stories tend to come out when there's a little bit of pressure on the manager. I mean, I remember how long ago was it? It's about 10 years ago. There's a story. The players were unhappy because there wasn't any tomato ketchup in the canteen. I mean, these are professional footballers. They're supposed to be elite athletes. It doesn't take much to give them the ump or sort of make them a bit, sort of unhappy. And, all this energy that went into what are the fans doing and what are they not doing. You'd think it is the first time a group of fans have ever booed their players. And I don't think there was anything worse that happened last week than happens at a lot of grounds across the country when people are having a bit of a bad run or a player makes a mistake. But what a proper professional does is that they just get on with it. I mean, somebody said, I was chatting to one of my mates during the week, and he said, I can remember one stage, just showing me age here, Stevie Perryman getting a load of stick from the crowd because he was on a bit of a bad run. And he got a goal, turned around to the shelf, gave him the 2 fingers, and then got on with it. And that was it. And he said, that's your answer. But we need a bit more of that.
We do. I totally agree on that. And this is why I think it's a two-way thing, Luke, isn't it? I see a lot of debate right now as to whether a lot of it's being apportioned at Frank, a lot of it's being apportioned at the players. But, I've criticised Romero. Romero in the second half there has carried Tottenham to go and get us a point. Let's be honest about it. His 2 moments of brilliance, the header, the goal, he's dragged Tottenham to get a point out of a place that I keep on saying is not an easy place to go. And a place where, let's be honest about it, I don't know any Spurs fan I spoke to beforehand that gave us a hope in hell of getting anything there whatsoever. But we got something. And I just wonder again, that point around the players, where are you, Luke, on that responsibility and accountability? Is it as much on Frank as it is on the players? Because sometimes we know that in football, a lot of heat goes on to the manager, and you change the manager, and the players seem to get away with it, which happens time and time again. Where are you on that debate for you, Luke?
Very, very rarely in football is the blame solely on one person or one group of players, or do you know what I mean? It has to be a shared responsibility here. You can clearly say that the players are not performing to the levels that they should do, and sometimes the levels that they should do is simply running around and putting in some challenges. And I mean, go back old school, kick someone up in the air. I mean, Roy Keane come out with that saying sometimes I just run around and kick someone to make myself feel better. If that's what you need to do to kind of G people up, sometimes that's what needs to kind of happen. Romero sort of does that on occasion. So I definitely don't think it's fair to blame everything on Frank. I think that when you look at what we didn't do in the summer window, particularly when all of the areas that in terms of the attacking players, we knew where the issues were. And it's come to fruition. Nothing's different to what we said, that the lack of consistency in the left winger. It seems that he doesn't seem to know. It's not just necessarily know his best team. It does feel like that it's 1 minute, it's almost like Tell's not got a chance. And then all of a sudden Tell's the first person to come off the bench. And I'm like, where is he in your rankings? Or is it solely based on which game you actually like? He's coming up against a certain fullback, so I'll bring him on. It feels a little bit like that. I don't think he's fully understanding all of the different aspects of his squad, and maybe that's because he's been at a club so long that he knew every single player profile. He knew exactly what when one come out, what one would come in. But I thought it's really interesting that Spence didn't play today as well. I think that was quite interesting because, I mean, only go back a few months and everyone was saying that Spence was our best fullback and that he should be starting every game. And then when Frank's talking about rotation and players not being able to play every single game, etc., well, Spence should have surely have been able to play on. He's a player that can play on either side, right? So I feel like it's definitely interesting to see, but I think we need to get a little bit more of settled. It hasn't necessarily got to be a settled side, but settled combination. So Porro and Kudus have played a hell of a lot together. Yeah. And you could argue that on the right hand side, especially in that first half, we were struggling a little bit. As you said, Kudus is doing flicks and tricks everywhere. Porro was doing back heels. I'm not sure if they realised it's not the Harlem Globetrotters. It was Spurs away to Newcastle. But I feel like we need to get them combinations going a little bit. And I feel like with Xavi, I feel like that's the exact problem that we've got, is that Xavi is a player that likes to have the ball, likes to play little 1-2s. I keep saying it. He likes to shift the ball from one side to another, and it's constantly about being on the ball. We don't dominate the ball enough for him to be effective in a current system at Spurs. So therefore, he's not playing. But
what do you make of this image, Luke, just to let you come back in? There's an image now that we're showing on screen for listeners and audio. It shows Spurs in build-up where you'd normally have it shows where a number 10 maybe should be, that there isn't a number 10 there, where you'd want a number 10 to be there. Yeah. What do you make of it for you, Luke?
I think this is the exact problem in terms of what Xavi Simons can bring to a team, but we have to be able to provide him with the service for him to be able to find these players. So I think if Xavi Simons was in our team, these are the sort of positions that he'd be looking to pick up. But we would need to have players around him that want to receive the ball. And when you're not confident, then it's something that people shy away from. So it's a real difficult one. I can understand why Xavi's not in the team, because we're not full of confidence. We're not a passing team that want to get on the ball and dominate. But at the same time, that's exactly what we should be doing. So therefore, Xavi Simons should be in the team to get us to do that more. It's one of them catch-22s. It's different if we had players that were in great form. So, for instance, Sarr at the start of the season playing in the 10 position, a lot of players said, why would we have Sarr in the 10, blah, blah, blah. But he was in such great form. He played there. But now we've got so many players that are not in great form. I feel like he needs to find a way to get the more attacking players and creative players in the team, so then we can be more of an attacking threat. And just going on the penalty, I know we're going to probably go into it a little bit more. But when you defend as much as we defend, then mistakes will happen. Referees will make decisions because you're spending so much time in your box. It's exactly like when you attack. People say, why don't we get the deflections? Why don't we get this? Because we don't spend enough time in the opposition's box. If we do that, we're more likely to get mistakes. People clear it and put it in. We get penalties. That's how you do it, by dominating in that specific area. So I think that's something that we need to stop doing and getting in our box.
Well, look, unusually, what we are going to do, we're actually going to come on to that incident next. We're waiting for Frank's interview to drop. So, look, we are going to go for our first break of the show for our listeners on audio. We've got over 7,500 of you that are watching us live. Thank you so much, as always, guys, for your incredible support for Last Word on Spurs. If we could ask you to keep liking, subscribing, hyping to the show, that would be greatly appreciated. Long time away, but lovely having some Martin Cloake back on the show. We need sometimes a voice authority on here. So, Martin, thanks for joining us. We're joined by Marlon over at the Spurs Kings, and we're joined by Luke over at Spotlight on Spurs. Listen, let's come to that, actually. I don't normally do this, but I'm going to break trend here. I'm going to go to that VAR incident, which I know for a lot of people out there, they're angry, they're frustrated, and rightly so. I mean, it was a bizarre decision. I do wonder whether, in any way, Bentancur does give him a decision to make. I just wonder. Look, I'll start, Martin, with you on this element of it itself, because I think the Newcastle players were as stunned as the Tottenham ones were when there was a decision to be taken on a review check for this incident where, and for those that weren't aware of what actually happened, there looked to be some form of a grapple between Bentancur and Burn, and he awards the penalty. It looked really, really soft at the time, and the referee, Tom Bramwell, was sent to his monitor to look at it. Van der Ven was absolutely furious on the touchline. He said, "You're a joke," to the fourth official. Lucas Bergvall, Jed Spence also went over to have a word too. Bergvall kicked his jacket away in frustration. Look, the reality is it was never a penalty, but you have to maybe also ask why Bentancur is going to such lengths to maybe put a decision into the hands of VAR. Tell me if I'm being harsh here, Martin. Is this completely just daylight robbery, how we've even got to a decision to be made in this element?
Look, I would get rid of VAR now. I'll get rid of it last week if I could. I think it's just an abomination, and it hasn't solved anything at all. It's just a different kind of controversy. It was brought in by TV because it gives TV more content. That's what it was. Nobody asked for it. Nobody particularly wanted it. Looking at that incident, to me, and I'm seeing the comments saying it was a penalty because Bentancur wasn't looking at the ball. Bentancur and Burns are jostling for position, right? It's pretty meaty. That's what happens at corners. It's a contact sport. As they kind of move together, they both kind of jumped, and Burns got him in a headlock. He hasn't deliberately got him in a headlock, but because he's trying to defend his own position and everything and kind of move and kind of keep Bentancur off, his arms come over and he's got Bentancur's head underneath his arm and he's pulling him round. So the reason that Bentancur couldn't watch the ball is because he couldn't get his head out from underneath Dan Burns' headlock as well. He then pulls him down. They both go down on the floor. There is no way that is a penalty on God's earth. There's absolutely no way that is a penalty. Okay,
Marlon, let's come to you on that. Where do you stand? Because I should also make that point. There is a part of that where at one point it does look like Bentancur has been put into a sleeper hold, as our American fans would know from the WWE world. Marlon, where do you stand that for you? Is it completely ridiculous? We're even debating whether it's a penalty.
So I'm one of those that I don't mind VAR. However, this is where I just disagree with Martin, kind of on the bit where no one asked for it. The problem is Charlie Austin had a rant and said they need help, and a lot of the managers and players around that time were moaning about decisions that the referees were making. Yes, I do agree with you in the fact of actually it's opened up another can of worms, because actually a lot of people don't know the rules, and I think that's where it's becoming a bit of a misshapen thing, and that's why we're hearing about Howard Webb, this, that, and the other. But there's one key incident to this, which I think this is where we're going to see with Howard Webb in a couple of weeks. Bentancur, when he's committing a foul and he's not looking at the ball, because that's what they've given it for. That's what we have to remember. That's what they've given it for.
Yeah.
The ball's not even in play. So when it's the headlock, when Burns on him, that's when the ball's in play. So actually, the foul is technically on Bentancur after it as well. So he should never have been sent to the monitor in the first place. Because when you look at it, like when the headers, when you can see it in your image as well. When I can't remember who headers it, but that's when Bentancur then get caught in the headlock and he pushes him down to the ground because he's just trying to get him off him.
Yeah.
But if that foul happens before that ball is kicked, they can't commit the foul against Bentancur. They have to. He kind of has to go.
Yeah.
It's before the ball's in play, and he kind of has to deal with the incident there and then. So so I think that they're going to get caught up on that later on as well. So it was a shocking decision. Don't get me wrong. It's probably, what it feels like. Remember when Eric Dyer got caught out with a handball from behind for Andy Carroll against you? It just feels exactly the same. That Spurs, when we get caught out by a decision, it's always kind of the worst decision that they could ever give.
It's the same, isn't it?
And it always feels the same. Like the rules have to be changed after. But I think what's going to happen in a few weeks, we're going to have Howard Webb coming out, and he's going to have to make an excuse to why they gave this. And it's unfortunate because I thought the ref had a great game, and considering he's not a Premier League regular, I think he was one of the new ones, and he's going to be known for this decision now because someone from VAR, I think it's Tierney that gave it. I think it was Paul Tierney. Yeah, has gone and basically shit on him.
It's a real difficult one because I think even at that stadium to then overturn that decision, and this is where I think also maybe it's wrong thinking this, but at a ground like that, I think you're got more chance of it being overturned. And I don't mean any disrespect at maybe a place like Bournemouth, for example, or a place like Wolves. I might be wrong. Then a Newcastle, then a Liverpool, then a City, an Arsenal, or a Chelsea. I mean, Luke, I'll bring you in. I mean, there's no way I would think that would have been given a penalty at the other end of the pitch. But why I say Bentancur's an idiot for his part in it is because whether you like it or not, there's an argument that he wasn't looking at the ball. And, he's got himself into that situation needlessly. But also what he can't help, as Marlon has touched upon, he has been put into a headlock, which isn't in his control, right? That has happened as part of the motion and the move. But I think the biggest frustration is, we know, there is just absolute zero consistency with these officials, Luke.
Yeah, 100%. What's really strange is in live game, there was one person in the world that thought that was a penalty. And then after the VAR check, there was two. No one else did. Not the person that was fouled, not the manager of the opposition team, nobody. And the commentary teams were basically laughing. Like they didn't, it was such a non-event. They just dismissed it out of hand. It was like, that's not a penalty. Crack on. Oh no! What we're still going on. Oh, it's still being checked. No, he's being sent to the screen. Like it's just absolutely ridiculous, and it should never. The problem with this sort of decision is that it's being re-refed, and that's not what VAR is designed to do. If the ref was to have give this as a penalty, then you're thinking, would it be overturned? Is there a real big issue here? Has he made a completely wrong decision? And I think that's where people get confused, is that there's a lot of decisions that if they're given on pitch, they'll stay as the decision. And if they're not given on pitch, they'll stay not given. And this one should not be changed. As I say, it's a completely different argument if the ref gives it on field and says it's a penalty, and then the VAR doesn't intervene. But VAR is not there to re-referee games, and that's exactly what it felt like it was. And I think you're right. This is a young ref in terms of experience in the Premier League, going to a screen in a very hostile place and having the option to have been sent there and put in that predicament. I'm not sure was fair on him at all. But and this is the problem with consistency. If that is a foul, we're going to have penalties given 2-3 every single game. Like it's just never a penalty in a million years. And you could argue that, as you said, he's not looking at the ball, etc. But there needs to be some understanding of, it can't just be a simple, he's not looking at the ball, so it's a foul. There needs to be some, well, how can he be looking at the ball when Dan Burns got him in an headlock? And do you know what I mean? There has to be some sort of understanding there that it's not a case of you can't touch an opponent in the box. That's not what the rules are. The rules is that you can't foul them in the box. So I thought it was a really, really strange one, and I was standing up in my living room at disbelief at how it had been overturned. But Marlon's right in terms of, if it can go wrong against Spurs, then it certainly does, and it seems to happen. And it wouldn't surprise me now if in January it was looked at as a sort of rule change, where they go, because we seem to be brilliant at that.
We are the ones that
yeah.
always force the rule changes.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So it wouldn't surprise me if there was a rule change where it had to be something along the lines of they have to be looking at the ball, but can we use some sort of common sense somewhere along the lines? But I think if that foul happens in any other game for probably the rest of the season, I don't think it's given at all, and it's definitely not taken to VAR to overrule the original decision in my eyes.
Yeah. No, what's also interesting, Martin, just to close on this point, is what I find fascinating is that players' body language and the way they interpret a decision or interpret the incident. I didn't see one Newcastle player, Martin, even appealing for the penalty. They couldn't quite believe it. I mean, that's what I also find quite mad, how the referee doesn't even look at body language of the players to even think, am I getting this right? Am I reading this right?
Well, no, so. I mean, you could argue the referee should be, looking at the action, looking at the incident. But I mean, look, Luke was absolutely spot on. That I was watching the same commentary as well. The commentary team, they weren't even dismissing it as it just wasn't an argument. And then they were suddenly like, hold on a minute, why are we still talking about this? Oh my God, they're giving a penalty. That's just absolutely ridiculous. And you're right, Luke. There was one person that thought it was a penalty, and now there's two, and that's it.
It is mental. It is mental. But look, in the end for Tottenham, it hasn't done too much damage. We have come away with a point, and Thomas Frank, of course, happy to come away with that point. Does it ease the pressure on Thomas Frank? We shall see. But look, we're going to hear from him. So let's quickly hear from Thomas Frank, who gives his thoughts on the game and what he made of Tottenham's response to not coming from behind once, but coming from behind twice, take a point up at St James's Park.
Alan, do you want to start us off?
Thomas, do you expect Cristian Romero to be your striker tonight? Score 2 goals, and especially one like that, then?
I think that was the perfect bicycle king hit with the shin, aiming for the bottom corner. I think let's start praising Kuti. I think he deserved that. Overall, a top performance defending, on the ball, coolness, calmness, duels, and then get up there and score 2 goals. And I think the bicycle kick will will most likely get a little bit more praise. But I think the header is more exceptional. The way he does that is better than many strikers. That said, I think I really like the character and the mentality in the team. What they showed after 3 tough games. I think it's been to go here to the 4th game in 10 days, the 3rd away game. A very difficult place. Go down 2 times or get behind 2 times and come back. It shows everything about the willingness and the mentality in the team. And also, the second one is very disappointing to concede, because I think for me it's never a penalty. Even speaking to some from Newcastle, don't think it's a penalty. And we need the consistency, because that a penalty that would be given 2 times a game. And I actually think the referees say it's a referee call on the pitch, and he nailed it. And VAR can only be if it's clear and obvious. But I want to speak about us and the mentality coming back, and a great point away from home. I'm happy with that. And I think our fans, exceptional, traveling 3,000 up here, the way they support us throughout the game, singing, and also heard them singing and praising Vic throughout the game. That's togetherness.
How much does that mean to you to kind of hear them sing throughout?
You could hear them here, and it's not a difficult place to come as a away fan and be loud enough so we can hear them. So they put so much effort into it. Matched the effort from the team, and that togetherness, drove us forward and it gave us a more than well-deserved point.
Given that the team's been in a difficult run recently, it makes such a difference to have that kind of individual leadership, individual heroism from Romero.
Yeah, we of course, I think we can set everything nice tactically up and good principles and all that, and try to do it. But I think, and that's the foundation, and that hopefully we can make a great team. But sometimes it's decisive actions from key players, and Kuti definitely did that today.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
So you said,
Oh, yeah.
can you go on about how important it was for the team to show that spirit today after everything you've been through the last 10 days?
Yeah, I think I think it's hugely important. I think the PSG performance are good. I think the team gave everything against Fulham. It was just a nightmare game in some ways because you're down 2-0 after 6 minutes, and then keep going and then also get something out of it. But that's the only way forward. We know that. If you're in a tough run, there's only one way. That is to work hard and keep going. And the team did that very well today.
I'll just double check on Destiny at the end. Seems to be limping a little bit. Is he okay?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure. I haven't heard anything. Yeah. Good.
Okay,
Thank you.
Thank you.
So there you go. That was Thomas Frank there on the back of Tottenham going up to Newcastle and grabbing a late equaliser, which on the balance of play, given that horrendous VAR decision, it's a well-earned point. It's pissed off a lot of Geordies out there. So some will love that. Some will hate that. Listen, thanks again to the nearly watching 10,500 on this show again. We're joined by the wonderful Martin Cloake. We're joined by Marlon at Spurs Kings, and we're joined by Luke over at Spot on Spurs. If you guys can continue to like, subscribe, hype for the show, that would be greatly appreciated. Martin, we've heard there from Thomas Frank. Wanted to really make that point around the fact, I think, was it the third, the fourth game they've had to go through in 10 days? I think Brentford will be, forgive me, the 10th the 10 days that we've had the games accumulated in. What did you make of him there? Because he went very much around the point of really praising the fans, their reaction to Vicario, their reaction around Romero. Is he trying to build those bridges back?
I think he handled that really well. I think the only thing that I thought was a bit strange is when he said that we gave everything against Fulham, and we obviously didn't. But that was the last line of the press conference.
Yeah.
But I think he realised. I think some mistakes were made in terms of things that were said last week. You don't pick a fight with your own fans. And I think that, there's been a lot of noise around that and a lot of distraction. And I think he's made an effort to move on from that. I think he said it was a professional press conference. It was the right thing to do.
Yeah.
He has tried to build some bridges, and he's emphasised the right things about the performance as well. And actually what he said, that was absolutely spot on. That header, everyone's talking about the overhead kick, but that header that Romero scored, that was as good a header as you'll see from any top class striker as well. And that the ball in was pretty nice as well. So, I thought he handled that pretty well. So, again, maybe that's some more of the positives that we were trying to sort of fish around and dig out at the start of the show. Yeah.
Just, again, I'll tell you, in your experience as a Spurs fan, Martin, and I've seen a lot of different Tottenham managers go to war with the fans. It's not the first time we've seen a Tottenham head coach go at some of the fans for their reaction. Can he rebuild those bridges for you? Because we know it feels that he lost a lot of supporters given the nature of those London derby displays against Chelsea and Arsenal. Do you think he can win the fans back? Or are there some that are just already, no, they're done? What do you think? You've been around for a long time, seen a lot of Spurs managers. Can he win those fans back?
I think it was the performances come on the pitch and play. People start seeing some, in the end, it's results, isn't it? But, you see some good performances, you see some honesty, you see some ambition out there, then, yes, he can rebuild those bridges. Absolutely no question about it. But I said that I obviously kind of would say this because of the work that we used to do. And I've always said that you've got to stick up for the fans. I don't think fans always get it right. And I mean, we took more than our fair share of abuse when I was running the trust and, with Kat and various other people. So I know what it's like to kind of get how to go at, and sometimes it does get to you, and sometimes you kind of got to brush it off. But the players have to brush it off, and the way they turn it round is by putting in those performances on the pitch. And I think what's been shown, our communication as a club has been so bad for so many years, and it was almost a masterclass in how not to handle things. It was so divisive. The reason we're still talking about the booing of Vicario last weekend is because of the fuss that was made during the week. Everybody would have moved on, and we would be talking about, maybe the performances could be better and whatever, which they could be. But look, if it's early days and all these other kind of cliches, but that we need to see more intensity. We need to see more ambition out there as well. And
Yep.
that's not kind of getting above ourselves. The one thing that really, really annoys me, and it's a word that's been used a lot this week, is it's saying that, the fans that express their discontent. And I don't agree with booing during the game, but I think after the game, perfectly reasonable to express your opinions. But
Yep.
people talk about fans and their sense of entitlement. What does that actually mean? Well, maybe there is some entitlement somewhere along the line, because actually it does matter that we pay some of the highest ticket prices in Europe. It does matter that we've had this constant jam tomorrow from boards that haven't understood football. And again, what we're looking at here, we're hearing a lot about there's a new regime in charge at Spurs. It's not ENIC anymore. It's the Lewis family, isn't it?
Yep.
And I always have the tune going through my head when I say the Lewis family as well. Can't get that out of my head. But so they've done a bit of a rebrand. But is there a different mentality right from the top of the club? Because we've said this for years about it's the mentality that runs all the way through the club. They're looking for excuses. They're looking for things to blame other than what's in front of you. So
Yep.
Frank can get people back on board, but he needs help from the players, and he needs help from elsewhere in the club. Has he got the ability to play the kind of football that a lot of us want to see? I think the jury's out on that, and you'd have to look at it. I sympathise with a lot of what Marlon's saying, and I think I'm seeing there's a lot of disagreement in the comments as well. But it's like you can only talk about what's in front of you. I've not seen a lot of indication that there's going to be this kind of free-flowing, front foot, make things happen football, and that's what we want to do in the end. You have to go out and try to win games. It's not good enough just to try and avoid losing.
And also,
that's how it gets the fans back on side.
And also, I don't want to forget this. Where are you on now this stance taken by the players that at half-time they will come together and walk off the field in solidarity? Where are you on that?
Well, I'm glad they can get that formation right, but so I suppose that's another positive as well. But
at least we might be so consistent in something.
Story that's been cooked up. I don't know. I just think, look, I said it. You don't pick a fight with your own fans. It never ends well.
Yeah. I mean, at what point do you think the players will start to focus on their own game then, and we'll bin this off? Could you see that?
Well, that would be nice, wouldn't it? That's what they should be focusing on. Everybody that you spoke to, and friends, I was at the Football Supporters Association Awards last night, so that's what I said to you. It was a bit of a late night last night, but talking to other fans as well, and they were saying, what were they thinking of when they did it? What do they think would happen? Everybody knows that it's never a good idea to get into a fight with your own fans, and certainly over something like that. It wasn't the worst that fans have ever treated their team. And you hear some of the stories about like the ultras in South America and Italy. I mean, blimey, this is like it's a bit of booing. And of course, it wasn't good and it wasn't helpful during the game, and a sarcastic cheer and all the rest of it. That so okay, defend your colleague once and then move on. But going to war with your own fans is just it's not right.
Yeah. Yeah, again, I think it's such an interesting topic. We'll have to see how that does develop in these next couple of weeks. So we'll come on to the team. Miles will come to you. Again, Frank did change it up. He made 4 changes for this one. Romero, back from suspension, started into the defence alongside Kevin Dancer, with Mickey van der Ven getting a rest after 3 games a week. Xavi Simons has now not started the past 4 matches. A reminder, 51 million summer signing, still out. And not really getting looking in terms of selection at the moment. João Palhinha with him on the bench as Lucas Bergvall and Pat Matassar were the ones alongside Bentancur for this one. Brennan Johnson, of course, Tottenham's last season's top scorer, came into the lineup for the first time since the Man United game. You then had the front 3 of Kudus and Callum Awani involved in there. So he lined up with Vicario, Porro, Romero, Danso, Udogie, Sarr, Bentancur, Bergvall, Xavi, Kudus, Mawani, Johnson, bench of Kinski, Palhinha, Xavi, Richarlison, Tell, Gray, Spence, Odegaard, and Van der Ven. Frank said on benching Van der Ven, he's a super important player. This is the 4th game in 10 days with the shortest turnaround, 2-2-2, the 3rd away game out of the 4. So it's just making sure we keep the freshness and the energy in the team. It's the same with Richie. Richie and Mickey have started the 3 games in a row, so we need fresh players on the pitch. I think it's fair to say they've never been fitter in the last 3 years than they are right now. Thomas Frank getting that in there as well pre-match. What did you make, Marlon, of the team? Again, a lot of changes. Are we ever going to see a same 11 under Frank, do you think? We're not, are we?
Probably not.
No.
I saw everyone kind of living out on X and whatnot on social media when they saw this team, and I actually understood the Richarlison and Van der Ven, because I I said to myself, they have played the last 3 games. There's 2 players that, one does his hammy and Richarlison ends up doing something and gets injured for months. She can clearly understand. And a lot of people thought we were going to lose tonight anyway. So save his best team for Saturday against Brentford, in my eyes.
Yeah.
And he's ended up getting a result tonight. And to be fair, in that first half, I know I said we were poor, but we went in at half time at 0-0. So it was kind of
without a shot on target. You know what? The reality is, Marlon, is that you come back in. I think Thomas Frank, that half played out the way Thomas Frank wanted it to play out. We go in 0-0 at half time. I don't think he really cares. It sounds. Listen, fans won't like me saying this. Maybe I don't think Thomas Frank massively cares. We didn't have a shot on target. We got in 0-0 at half time, and let's be honest about it. The job was to not lose the game.
And we nearly scored twice as well in that first half. Because you got to take Johnson's run where he ran, and it was a good run. And if that ball is not taken out, I think it's a tap in for Kudus.
Yes, Lewis Hall cut it out. Lewis
Hall cut it out, and then you got to take Kudus's cross, and Bergvall impressively it hits over the bar. I don't know how he got it over the bar. So I think you're absolutely spot on. That is exactly how Frank would have played out that first half, especially with Newcastle's changes, because we've also got to include them in this because. Actually, they made a few changes themselves. So it was kind of, yes, Newcastle were the better team, but did they have any clear-cut chances apart from what does Frank like to do? He likes shots from the edge of the box. And that's where most of Newcastle's play was coming, because Lewis Miley had a few. And that's exactly where the shots were coming from. But because they weren't of quality, they were in areas that Vicario could deal with. It was just when Guimaraes came on in the second half where I think you'll get onto that, but I think we just made the changes slightly. We were a bit delayed with it because the momentum started more towards Newcastle, hence where the goal came from.
Yeah, that's absolutely fair. Look, I mean, that first half, as we touched upon, Luke, you said in your intro, and forgive me, I think you did say this, that based on that first half, it's going to be unsustainable. Newcastle had a lot of the ball, they had a lot of the chances. They hit the post as well, Joe Linton. But, I mean, completely against the run of play, we had our own little break where could have played a lovely ball into Bergvall, who tried to flick, come close to scoring, just over. And as Marlon just said, there was a good little spell for Spurs because Brennan Johnson was making a few decent runs with that chance where, again, if Lewis Hall isn't there, it's a tap-in for Mo Kudus. And, we go into half-time. Vicario seems to be complaining about something, actually, to the referee before half-time. It was passed on to a grounds member staff. The Spurs fans were singing his name, to be fair to him. But we go in, look, Newcastle were the more threatening side. They hit the post, Spurs under pressure. Again, no shot on target for Tottenham. 4 games in a row now without a shot on target in the first half. But it's the reality, Luke, in some of these games that, especially away from home, Frank don't really care about shots on target in the first half. He cares about going there, shutting up shop and going to win the game. We've seen that really in the way we've played away from home. The likes of Everton, the likes of Leeds. We've gone away from home, not been great, not been pretty, but we've gone away and ground out results. And we are relying, certainly away from home, on set pieces. And again, the element of trying to get a chance on the break.
Yeah, 100%. And listen, I know we're using that stat in terms of no shots on target. You can still create chances and not have a shot on target. But it's about when you break or when you do go forward, there's some sort of an intent there. There are certain points in the last few games where we could have said there's absolutely zero chance we're even getting into an opposition's box because there's no intent there to do that. It's almost like they're just kind of almost running away with the ball to get as far away from our goal as possible, not to try and score a goal. So as you said, the intent was there. You had Bergvall's chance. You could, in another world, you could end up being 2-0 up. And that's the absolute key thing when you're playing defensive football or when you're allowing a team to dominate you, is that you have to look dangerous on the counter-attack. You have to sit there and make sure that the opposition is aware that if they have to be on it, otherwise they'll concede. So if you're creating them chances, as I say, you might not necessarily have a shot on target, but you look dangerous. You look like you can cause a threat. You can score goals. So that is something that we have to keep up if we're playing this sort of football. You don't, as I say, shots on target is what we're going at right now. But if you look like you're going to score, there's so many times where I watch teams and I think they haven't had a shot yet, but they look dangerous. Every time they get the ball, they look like they could create something, or you got to make sure that you're on it. Your defense needs to be switched on consistently and that sort of stuff. So I definitely feel like that's something that we need to focus on and make sure that if we are going into a defensive sort of mode, that we look like we're going, if we get the ball, it look like we're going to score. And talking about what Brennan Johnson, I actually think over the last couple of weeks, when he's played, he's done things that I haven't really seen from him. When he beat that man, and he done it a couple of weeks back as well. I know we're talking about minor stuff, but this is a player that didn't attempt that last year. And now he looks like he's intent on changing that. And I think that's exactly what we need. We need players that are going to do something a bit out of the ordinary and not going to just keep doing the same thing over and over again. So, there are definitely bits and pieces. Going back to the starting 11, I completely agree with Marlon. There was, when I first read it, don't get me wrong, I went, bit of a strange one. But then when you break it down, when you talk about how many games has been played, the players that have come out, the only one, and I mentioned it already, the only one that surprises me is Spence. I think Porro started the last 3 at right back, and a lot of fans are getting on Porro's back at this moment in time. But I always think that Porro has a real dip in form when he's played so heavily. Every single game he plays consistently, doesn't get that rest. And normally if he has that rest, he comes back a little bit more fresh, a little bit more. It's almost like he's just running on like just fumes, basically. So I do think it was interesting that Spence didn't start, but all the rest of them kind of understood the changes. As I said, like to see Xavi. I would like to see that. However, we didn't know what Newcastle's midfield's like, and with Tonali and Bruno Guimaraes, and then the legs of Joelinton as well. I feel like he wanted to make sure that we had a midfield that can compete in there with them physically, and also having the legs as well, which is why I think he went with that midfield. So I kind of understood it. It's easy to be in hindsight and say, well, actually, we should have done this, we should have done that. If Xavi would have started, we'd have scored 10. We can all do that. But I understood that. Because I think we have to be careful. If we get key players injured, then it could even be a real struggle this year. So I did understand it.
Yeah, well, listen, we go into half-time, like I mentioned, without now a 4th game in a row without a shot on target in the first half. We come out, Vicario does really well to deny Barnes after the Newcastle man flew past Romero, and then Danzo cleared Walter Mader's header off the line. Got to say, I think there was a feeling that a goal was building, Martin, to come over to you, and Newcastle did go in front via Bruno Guimaraes. She curled one in from the edge of the box. I mean, no chance for Vicario in terms of the finish. Did you feel it was coming, Martin, at that point? When Newcastle go ahead?
We didn't look like we were. It was a pretty awful game of football all round, I think, in the first half. But we offered absolutely nothing out there at all. There was no personality, no drive, no anything at all. So you could see the goal coming. I thought the only thing, and I was just trying to look around for positives, really hard, that we were doing, which we seem to have learned from the last few games, is that, in a manner of speaking, we were trying to close down players on the edge of the penalty box, on the edge of the D, and we've conceded. Like last season, we conceded the same goal under Ange about 20 times, didn't we? This season, we're conceding by just letting players shoot from outside the edge of the box, and we were trying to get out and close it down a little bit there. But the goals that they scored weren't from daft defensive mistakes. I think they were well taken goals by Newcastle as well. And I think somebody said during the week that we so often we look as if we're like one good pass away from getting annihilated, and you just felt we're like on eggshells really all through the first half, because I think if they get a goal, then what's going to happen? It's going to be another one of the thumpings that I'm usually up there for. So maybe the answer is that I don't go up there. I don't know.
So is that why we've nicked the draw and nicked the point then, Martin? Yeah, because you ain't up there. Is that why?
Absolutely, yeah. It's all about the fans, you see, isn't it? As well.
It's all about the fans. That's why you should never come for the fans. So Spurs 1-0 down. Then Vicario saves for Miley at full strength. He then makes a triple substitution. Tell Richarlison Xavi on for Johnson, Kalamawani, and Bergvall. I think credit to Kalamawani because he worked his socks off really without very little service to benefit him. I think Marlon, to bring you in, I saw many actually suggesting that we may have scored, but the fact that we got the goal from Romero, we'll come on to, but there were 2 driving runs in the second half from Bergvall and Kalamawani, and they were at that point really the only things to kind of get fans a little bit excited, and they were the ones taken off. Marlon, what did you make of that and the timing of the subs?
I thought the subs should have been made earlier. I'm not going to lie. I thought he waited a bit too long. However, again, I could understand why he took those players off, because, like you said, they were the drive from Mawani and the drive for Bergvall, but that was the only bits in between a long period where they were doing nothing. So he wanted to see if he could change it up and see if something else would work. And to be fair, to his credit, it probably did. We did score twice. And that's the problem at the moment. Mwani's taking too long to get into games. That's the one thing I say my biggest complaint, because that run he ended up making, I think he made the same one against PSG, but it was later on in the game. And I think he's struggling when he does play by himself up top a little bit. So there's that. And then for me, Bergvall runs around unfortunately, he runs around like a headless chicken half the time. But when he can get him on the ball, he's actually very good on it. He makes the driving runs. He's this, that, and the other. But there's that picture that you showed where it was missing Javi. Unfortunately, that's where Bergvall should have probably been. But he was probably told to be up front because he's been told an instruction. So this is where it comes into play with Bergvall. He's just got to be more clever when he's on the pitch, and it will come because you can clearly see he has got something about him. So I'm just waiting for Bergvall to kick in where he's consistently playing well. But at this present moment, he's probably the best, because we're playing so badly, he's probably the best part of what we've got going on at the moment, because even Carragher was saying everything has to go through Bergvall.
Yeah.
But unfortunately, it's not like he was creating much. And then as soon as he comes off, it allowed Kudos and Tell to suddenly start getting in the game on the wing, hence where the goals came from. So you kind of have to take it with a pinch of salt. Like, I know what you're saying, but at the same time, the subs probably needed to happen because they weren't having the effect on the game that they probably should have been in that first, was it 60 minutes? I think they came on.
Yeah. That crazy stick man's going to be worth quite a lot of money in January if he ends up staying in that position. Keep your eyes on for that one, I tell you. Look, we're going to come on to Spurs' equaliser. We'll come to you, Luke, on it. Obviously, like I say, there was delight because, I mean, it was one of those nights where you just thought this was edging towards another game where Spurs were going to unfortunately not take anything up at St James's Park, which has been the same reoccurring theme, definitely in our recent visits up there. But Romero, fair play to him. Cracking header for Cristian Romero. I can't tell you what he was doing up there in the first place. I'm not sure if you can, Luke, but it was just after the free subs finally got on, and it was an absolutely brilliant header, Luke, to bring us level.
Yeah, it was so good, and it's exactly what you need in terms of when you're struggling, when the team's down, it's low on confidence. You need someone that's going to do something a bit different, and Romero playing centre forward is a little bit different. We have seen it on occasions, but it was something that kind of took them by surprise. The movement was actually exceptional. There was a moment that you could see from a different camera where he's kind of like hid behind the defenders, kind of like run round. It was absolutely superb. But when it's down, when you're struggling, when the team needs someone to step up, you need to be brave. You need to go in where it hurts, and that's exactly what he done. Like it's an epiphany of exactly what you want from a striker. From a captain to be able to kind of lead the team and go forward. So it was an absolutely brilliant header, absolutely brilliant. One of the best headers I've seen for a long time. Also, just going in where it has, say Dan Burns ready to clear that. And he's just having none of it. He's like, no, this is my ball. And you can tell with Romero, he's very much that sort of character. You can tell if he's destined for it, he's got it in his head. His mind's made up. He's going for it. So it was really, really good. Really good play. Kudos obviously on the right hand side as well. Really mixed bag for me. There was sometimes where, as you said earlier, about him kicking the ball up in the air and doing a little flip flap and kick ups and all of that. And then there's other times where he beat Lewis Hall inside out, but then just couldn't create right at the end. So I feel like it's probably good for both players. I think Kudos has come under, quite rightly, he's come under a bit of criticism recently. I feel like, again, that might be a bit of tiredness thing. It just seems that all of our tactics are give him the ball and hope he does something with it. But I feel like it's a good thing for both of them. He's created something. Romero's obviously got that goal. And that's exactly, as I said, that's exactly what you need from your leader, from your captain, when you're playing away from home in a difficult place, to go and do something like that. So, yeah, really, really, really good from him, for sure.
Yeah, might just come on to you about Romero. I mean, he had an interesting game. He was back from suspension and then already picked up a yellow card very, very quickly upon his return to the side. He got skinned by Barnes for Newcastle, one of Newcastle's chances early on. Look, it was an unbelievable acrobatic overhead kick, which obviously followed up from, again, that brilliant header. Bit of a mixed day for him, right? But an incredible ending to a game where it will come out most certainly the hero for us.
Yeah, it's going to go down as a great captain's performance, isn't it? And there's always a is he going to? There's always that chance he's going to get drawn into something and sort of. But that's part of his game, isn't it? The aggression's part of the game, and he is one of our best players. So, and we needed him to go out there and lead tonight, and he did it.
Yeah, absolutely. Brilliant for Romero. I mean, look, in terms of for Spurs, we do remain in the bottom half of the table. I'm going to ask you guys, just in terms of now a quick five on Brentford. I mean, it felt like it was a massive, massive week for Tottenham. To stick with you, Martin. I sat here a week ago and said Fulham was a must win at home.
Yeah.
If Fulham was a must win at home, what's Brentford, Martin, given it's his former club? Keith Andrews coming to town. They want to do a number on him. How important is it that we get what would be our first home win, I think, in over 3 months? And I don't want to put the knockers on it, but I think we would set another really unwanted record if we don't win at home this coming weekend against Brentford. How important is it that he gets those 3 points?
It's massively important. I mean, the other interesting one about that is that Brentford are the only team that Ange did the double over last season. And I can't remember managing Brentford at the time, but I think he's still around. But that increases the pressure, doesn't it? And unfortunately, every game is now going to be one of these like massive high pressure games, a must win game, and they brought it on themselves, because of their own form. So they've got to dig themselves out of this hole. It's going to be difficult again because it's back at home. There are issues with the atmosphere at home games, and I think some of that is due to what's happening on the pitch. Some of it's due to what's been happening off the pitch as well. So it can be difficult, but I think people are willing to get behind it. I don't think it takes much, and I think you just need that. People have talked about intent and intensity a little bit in some of the post-match comments as well. They just want to have something to grab hold of and to get behind. Eddie Howe I thought was really interesting in his pre-match interview today, and he talked about the crowd at Newcastle and the ground, and he said what's important is that we start off on the front foot, we go out there and we get something to get behind. That's what we need to do. I don't think it takes much because we're supporters. We want to back the team. We want to get behind them. So show some intensity, but absolutely the pressure's on. And if there isn't a decent performance and a decent result next week, then it's all going to be, has he really gone forward? It's his old club. All the stats will come out again, and we're on a bad run at the moment. So we've got to break ourselves out of that. So
can one win, Martin, change the mood at home? Do you feel is it can that or is it going to have to take a consistent amount of performances and results for you?
I think it depends on the manner of the win. I think if we scrape it, people will be going, well, that's good. But, there's still the doubts about, can we keep doing that, as all of us have said on this panel tonight as well. Obviously, if it's a barnstorming performance and it's back to sunshine football and, glory days are here again, then, that's it. But, it has to be sustained for a while as well. We've got to get to the stage where we do get, the players that are out back. But, I think Kulusevski is the best player at the club. I absolutely love watching him play football. But the doubt with all the players that have been out is, are they going to be the same player when they come back as well? So we've got this, we're holding on until they're back. But actually, you've got to deal with what's in front of you. So the cliche about you can only play the team that's out there in front of you. You've got to deal with what you've got. We don't know why certain players are rested or not, and you have to trust that the manager can see that. So was it the right decision to rest VDV and Richarlison? You have to say that he knows more than we do because he's seen what they've got on the pitch. There are players that do look knackered out there though as well. So we've got to look at that, but it's another really, really hugely important game, and it's going to be pretty tense next Saturday as well. So, and there's always that danger it could go either way at the start, but going out there with a positive attitude and getting on the front foot and trying to win the game and make something happen, that's so important.
Absolutely. Look, Martin, some lovely comments on your return to the show. Sorry it's taken so long. We'd love to have you more involved. You're brilliant, like I say, coming on to the show. I know the guys have really enjoyed it. I don't want to now put you against half the audience who may be favourably on the manager and liking him, and there might be some that don't, of course, like him either. Your gut feeling, you've been around Spurs for many, many years, seen a lot of managers come and go. Gut feeling, Thomas Frank at Tottenham, from what you're seeing, do you think he's here for the long haul?
I think we've got to stop chopping and changing some. Look, the turning point for me was us not backing Pochettino and then making a disastrous decision to appoint that fraud Mourinho as well, which was it completely wrecks a lot of the culture of the club. We didn't build on anything that we had under Pochettino at all. We've just been bouncing around since then. So, at some stage it can't just be down to the manager, can it? And I want it to succeed. I think it's probably. I don't see a lot there at the moment, so I'm kind of grasping a little bit. But it's just we're just going to be having the same conversation again with another manager if we do it as well. So it's just like it's almost why not this one? That's not exactly a ringing endorsement, is it? But that's genuine.
Martin, you've been a star. Let's close with Marlon and Luke very quickly. Miles, you said to me a week or so ago after PSG, you aren't going to get too carried away by one performance because it's about seeing it across more games. So therefore, you're back with me for Brentford at the weekend. How important is it?
Patrick.
Sorry. How important is it that we do see a performance and a home win? How big is that for you?
I think we need to see a home win more than the performance at the moment. I think the performance may be secondary because of how bad the record is this year in 2025. I think a lot of fans just want to see us win at home and then start to see the performances later on. That's why if we end up playing exactly as we did today, but we end up winning 3-1 or something along them lines, I think more people will go, actually, let's see how this goes with Thomas Frank. Let's just start winning at the stadium before we start thinking about what's next. Because if we come out of a performance and still lose, everyone's still going to be on Thomas Frank's back, unfortunately. And I think where we're still, from last season where somebody did lose a lot of games last year at home.
Also won a European trophy. We have to say that to balance.
Yeah, of course. Well, sorry, Jason, won a European trophy. Yeah. However, we're still on this massive run where we've only beat, I think, was it Burnley, Man United, and Southampton.
Yeah.
Which is a poor showing. So I think for me right now, I will come on here on Saturday if we win and be like, I don't care about the performance. I'll sit there and back it, and I'll be like, we've got to get these wins under our belt at the stadium now. We're away from home. It's slightly different because we've got to remember, we have only lost Arsenal away from home.
Listen, I hope the away record's really good. I think we're still up the top of the away league. We did really well away from home.
So I'm looking at it like that. Look, and I'm still fuming about Arsenal. I'm always going to say it. I'm still fuming.
I agree. Listen, it's going to take a lot to win fans back. It's not been an easy week for Frank. You've got to say that. With the comments over
how
the fans.
How happy did he look though in the press conference?
He looked really happy, didn't he? He looked really happy. Yeah.
Like to say, I've got and as Martin said, it was a case of he needs to mend it with the fans at the moment after what he said on Saturday, and I think he's kind of skirting around it. He still believes in what he said, but he's trying to make it right with the fans in what he tried to say in that press conference. I think for a lot of us, we can move on from it. Get a win on Saturday, and it's then a step in the right direction to where us as fans and where he needs to be and where the players need to be. But he can't lose. That's one thing he can't do on Saturday. He can't not lose. Otherwise, I think a lot of people are going to be completely done.
Yeah, and forgive me, I think as King Hoddle says here, regular viewer listener, Takai got a game, so we know Takai does exist. He is a human. He is a Tottenham player.
I don't believe it until he's actually playing for the first team.
I was going to say, Takai did play a game, but it wasn't for the first team.
Don't believe it until he's played for the first team and got injured.
Yes, he has to get injured, again.
Brilliant point. Luke, let's close with you. Does feel like a really important game this coming weekend for Thomas Frank, for Tottenham as well. Look, table doesn't read pretty reading right now, although I've always said really in the last few weeks, don't go off the table, go off what you're seeing in your eyes, really. The eye test is more important than the table right now. But Tottenham at the moment are situated 11th, Brentford are 12th as things stand at this moment in time of recording. So it is a mid-table clash going into the weekend. Where are you, Luke, in terms of what we need to see on Saturday?
Yeah, I feel like it's going to take a bit of time regardless. If we go and we play Brentford and we beat them 4-0 and it's a great attacking display, the people that are doubting him are going to go, "Oh, it's one game against Brentford." So he's not going to win people over within a couple of performances. It's just we have to see that now on a consistent basis. And I've been saying for a while for Spurs, I don't know why as a fan base, performances are nigh on just as key to us as points as well. Spurs fans won't keep picking up points but not playing well. It's why a lot of fans, when we was, as I said to you before, we were sitting fifth, there were a lot of fans that still weren't happy with what we was being delivered up week in, week out. So it'd be really interesting to see. I do think it is quite a big week. I think that if he does not get the result against Brentford, then I think the people that are not backing him will be a hell of a lot louder. And I feel like that we was always going to have that this year. I think there was a lot of people that either backed the previous manager, weren't a fan of this one, and it was always going to be that split, and it kind of needed probably half a season to sort of settle down.
Yep.
But yeah, for sure. I mean, Brentford up, then you've obviously got you've got a couple of games where I think it's 2 games before Liverpool.
Yes.
We definitely want to be going into that with on a good run. And again, what I said to you earlier the other week about when you're playing in and really, really tough and everything's a hard point here, hard point there. You have a good result against Brentford, you go Champions League, you get a good result there, you play Nottingham Forest and you think, yeah, we should be able to win there, and your attitude just sort of changes. So I'm hoping that we just one good result. And in terms of getting the fans on side, look at Pochettino. Everyone wanted him gone when we had the real struggle. Kane scored the goal against Villa, and all of a sudden, look at most fans now talk about him like he's one of their favourite managers that they've seen. So he can definitely turn it around. There's no reason why he can't. Me included. Fans are very fickle. We do it with players. They're not good enough. Get rid of him. Score a couple of hat-tricks, and all of a sudden they should be starting every week. So we're fickle. It will definitely change around if he's able to change around. And going on the point about the fans, I feel like he's definitely that. When I said about learning, I think the next day he was kind of like, right, I shouldn't be picking them battles. Let me learn from that. And then all of the interviews since have been, our fans are great. I didn't quite agree with booing, but you kind of do what you like. And that's exactly what he needs to do. Get the fans on side. And then, the home form hopefully improves as well. And everything will start improving for us as a club and a fan base, I hope.
Fingers crossed. Whatever happens, we need to score the first goal on Saturday against Brentford. We need to score the first goal and probably the second goal as well. I want to say a massive thank you to the wonderful Martin Cloake. Martin, thank you so much. Absolute pleasure having you back on. You've been a star.
Yeah, pleasure to be back. Thanks, lads.
You've been a diamond. Thank you so much, mate. We look forward to having you back with hopefully a lot sooner than what it has been the hiatus. Fingers crossed.
Yeah, always ready to help out.
Superstar. We love to see more of you. We hope we'll make that happen. Marlon, thank you so much. No rest for the wicked. He's back with us very soon. Weekend pending. Luke's also back with us very, very soon. We're seeing more Luke around here. We're getting a lot of love as well as Marlon, of course, Martin on the show. Guys, thanks so much to over the 10,500 that have been with us, sat with us, gone through it with us. But we've got a point. Is that the point that sends Thomas Frank's Tottenham on a glittering December run? We shall see. From Martin, from Marlon, from Luke, from me. We've been the last one on Spurs. Keep safe, keep well. And as always, come on, you Spurs.